Hey there, we've got an absolute rock star joining us today. She's known far and wide as the NFT Queen Asia, and she's leading the charge in the Web3 revolution. She's not only a mover and shaker in the space, but she's a pro when it comes to all things blockchain technology. Now, her arduous journey through strategy consulting and banking has made her an expert in design thinking and creating groundbreaking stuff, which we'll hear about. And you see that she's all about the new era where we're stepping into Web3, where things are really changing big time. She's a firm believer that Web3 will shake up our economic landscape, especially with NFTs, giving people a fresh way to own digital goods. Now, she's also done some amazing work in the realm of the future of work. She's the brains behind Reinvent Dao, a decentralized autonomous organization that's flipping the script on how professional consultants create impact. It's all about intellectual property, NFTs, and it's very exciting. So I'd like to give a very warm welcome to the NFT Queen Asia, the engine behind Reinvent Dao, and all-around Web3 expert, Hanis Harmiles. Hanis, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Arthur. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. First of all, I just would like to say thank you for inviting me to um, be interviewed by the amazing Arthur. It's such a pleasure and honor of mine, and just what you described about me, I feel very humbled, and at the same time, I'm just excited to be able to convey in terms of what are the exciting things that we are working on in this space, and also educating and giving people perception about what is Web3 really about.
Great, great. Well, in today's episode, we're going to explore this whole dynamics in the Web3 space, specifically around the importance of trust. That's one of our main topics. And I guess where the current stage of innovation is around blockchain, Web3. And maybe we'll talk about the roles the media plays, which is changing, and the current transformations in TradFi, especially that's your background. So, Anissa, are you ready?
Ready?
All right, great.
Yes.
All right, so let's begin with learning a little bit about yourself. You basically I gave a little bit of introduction about your background. Maybe is there anything you would like to add to share with the audience about yourself?
Sure. Thank you for that. So, all right, a little bit about me. I I come from banking and consulting background. That's my past career, in my past life, I would say. Being in a TradFi scene, also working in a services-based industries where we always provide the best for our clients. I always understand the and where we were in banking before, my role was always to actually build a digital strategy, a digital product, where I work for Fortune 100 companies like Commonwealth Bank and recently in HSBC. So I understand how it's very important for us to find and solve a problem that works for our customer because that's how we can build trust in our product. And if you have read a book before called Hook, so how the author was actually introducing about how it's important for us to make our customers get hooked onto our product. One, so this is where I got myself intrigued 2020, when everything happened with the pandemic, I just started feeling okay. I needed to, we were stuck in Hong Kong. I couldn't do much, right? So I felt like there's a need of me to give back to society while I was still working in corporate. So that's how I started mentoring startups and uh, and because I'm in the fintech space, these startups were actually startups in DeFi, and that was during the DeFi summer in 2020. So I got into so deep into the protocols and understanding where all of this happened. That's how I got into Web3. I come from technology background. I learned more about the underlying technology of blockchain, and I immersed myself slowly in this. So from there, I started educating my banking peers, educating them about the importance of Web3. Like, what is a wallet? Why do you need a wallet? And what is an NFT? And what's the difference between, let's say, a Bitcoin and an NFT? So these are the kind of just simple methodologies that I use to educate my peers. And from there, it became like I've been invited by corporates to actually give talks about the evolution of Web3 and how that can help them on benefits of use cases for the company. Well, push come to shove, last year was when I left my corporate job in 2022. After I left, I knew this was something that I wanted to do in Web3. So I studied a lot of the problems, what's happening around the world with everything that has happened, with the whole FTX saga, the collapse of banks, the collapse of tech. People were getting layoffs. So we were trying to find these are common problems and challenges. How can we come and actually solve this? And for me, in my view, Web3 is actually about the underlying technology of blockchain that are enabled to provide you ownership to your asset, the digital asset ownership. So hence, we see there's a connecting dot here, and where we see people are required, people like us who are professions, they require an ability to get, how to actually earn money while the companies are hiring less. And we have assets in here, which are actually our knowledge, our know-how. So for this, that's how we connect the dots and we create Reinvent Dao, which is decentralized autonomous
Mm.
organization.
Okay. Well, let's move on to our core topic, which is basically the importance of trust in Web3. And now, in my previous conversations with you, you've emphasized that trust is the cornerstone of the success of Web3. And in the world where decentralization is paramount, and obviously, as you mentioned, many things in the past that have happened that has severely broken trust in systems and people's beliefs in this technology, whether it be FTX. Scammers that still happen today, hackers, JPEGs. What strategies do you believe are tactics are essential for rebuilding the foundation of trust in Web3? Is it people or is it the technology? Because the people we've learned have failed.
That's very interesting question, actually, Arthur. It goes back to how I started. I mentioned earlier how we started with Reinvent Dao. We've seen the collapse of all the saga, not just in crypto, but I'm talking about the current economy meltdown. People are losing jobs. People are losing ability to earn their own income. But us as professionals, we do have our assets. So the idea behind this is that that's how we started Reinvent Down. And we believe the idea of having open collaboration. So when you ask what strategies do I believe are essential for rebuilding trust, people and technology comes hand in hand together. We need community. We as human, we are bonded by connections. We need community regardless whether it's anonymous or non-anonymous. However, we've used for centuries and centuries. We've bonded to live longer by living in community. And technology is just a form of capabilities that enable things to happen. So for me, I really feel the element of trust comes in a format of trusting the security of the system, like how we trust we put our money in a bank. I mean, you, Arthur, I'm just going to throw this question to you as well.
Mhm.
I'm sure you would actually store not all of your assets in a crypto, right? You would still have your assets in a bank. Am I right?
Yeah, yeah, and also with fiat, I don't keep it all in one bank. I spread it around,
That's right.
just like I do my crypto.
That's right. It's
Right,
trust. You go trust with the brand.
right.
Similar, not just in a bank, in anything. So when it comes to Web3, for me, in my own view, I believe the strategies for these, it comes in the element of three things, right? Trusting towards the brand itself is about you have to establish your brand as making a purpose, showing that there's a purpose in what you're building. When there's a purpose means you are solving the main pain point of what your customers are facing, which is the mass market right now. Like who are the target customers that you are trying to help to solve the problem? And then the technology part comes in because it enables the capabilities of how the product you're building are able to solve that. So the brand will come out of it. The brand will come out of it in terms of the value proposition, the value that you are selling to your customers. This is what I feel are essential.
Okay. Well, do you believe that there is still requirement to build this element of trust through what works today? For example, a centralized organization or just like a bank, right? So lots of banks today, people still have a level of trust. And do you think that's still necessary? Is it a combination of technology, building trust and security with that, or the people behind a brand or a community leaders in the community?
Very good question. Well, I'm going to talk about what's happening now, the society that we've lived in, right? In this world that we live in, we always have leaders in countries. Leaders, we have governments, right? Back in maybe during the caveman days, even, there's the leader in a pack, right? Even in animals, you see there's the leader in a pack. Like with lions, a herd of lions that leads them to hunt because they have a purpose. I need to feed my kids, right? So in a community, in a world population now where it is just massive right now, there's an element of we still need, like, I'm going back to living in a community,
Hmm.
people, but also the leaders who are actually driving people to become the best version, the better version of themselves, right? You need an element of governance that make people work things hand in hand together in order to deliver a specific outcome and purpose. So for me, a centralized structure is, some people misuse it. To be honest, some people misuse it. A very top-down approach, not listening to your community, not listening to your people, you just, that's just not really providing an element of trust, because people felt, all right, if it's just all about the leader, then what about me? My voices are not heard. So I mean, what happened, for instance, in Twitter or X now, right? The purpose of what Elon Musk, he wanted to have everything in Twitter because, or X now, because he wanted freedom of speech. You know, he said before Twitter was just blocking everything. But then there's a bit of, hey, how much freedom of speech do you allowing people to talk about? Because that leads to, we can talk about that later, about misuse of information, misinformation coming in. So I don't want to retract from our conversation, but what I'm saying is, Arthur, I really believe an element of centralized versus decentralized will be where we are moving towards in the future.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I definitely think it's there now. So if we look at the era, I like to call it the era of the unregulated space, right?
Yes.
Now regulators are stepping in, right? There is an element of centralized governance over how tokenized assets are then promoted to the retail investors. I think when it goes to the high net worth, no one really cares because they
Yeah,
can afford to lose the money, right? That's the whole
for
point.
sure.
But now it's moving that way and things are changing. But, I mean, you have started your own DAO. I'd like to really explore why isn't that a structure that more are looking to? I'm not saying they're not. I mean, it just makes so much sense where it's so hard to have one person take over where it's really the governance is managed by the community of the people in the DAO. So, I mean, tell me more about that and where do you think DAOs are going in the future?
Sure. Thank you, Arthur. So, when we Reinvent Dao, right? We started the DAO as a going through the DAO life cycle stages. And the purpose of Reinvent Dao is that we are bringing in people together, people as in our professional creators, consultants, independent consultants, SME firms, niche firms, to come in together and return back the value to the creators of the IP, which is intellectual property. So what it means here is that Reinvent Now is like the Airbnb for experts know-how. Do you know what's an expert know-how, Arthur?
Tell me.
All right. Experts know-how comes in the course of, in a consulting world, your framework, your methodologies, your hacks, your toolkits, right? In the element of strategy, design, marketing, or even research. So these are what the proprietary rights that all the firms are keeping right now in order to serve their clients. And of course, that's why, because of the expensive, the high charge price that they charge towards the client, this is why people are paying, like, millions. Sometimes governments are paying millions of that. However, we are entering the era of gig economy, right?
Mm,
There's a lot of freelancers, there's a lot of independent consultants. That is why in Reinvent Dao, we are structured as a DAO because we believe in the idea of everyone has the right, everyone can create their intangible asset, which is their know-how. What is in here? I am an ex-consultant myself. I can create like a specific toolkit, or even a small consulting firm who's probably less than 10 employees. They have a specific niche. They can come in and create the toolkits and assets here. And we tokenize that as an IP. So it shows that, hey, Arthur, this is your strategy toolkit. It belongs to Arthur. But here's the catch, you are also encouraging other people to come in and collaborate. We believe in open
mm,
collaboration, coming in together to update the versioning and the content of the knowledge. So that becomes version 2, like how any versioning IP increase, right? From IP version 1, and then invention happens, and then innovation happens after that. So for us, what we're saying is that you come in, you create a toolkit, you're able to monetize that in our marketplace, as the gig economy will come in and lease your information, lease your toolkits. And in fact, you collaborate with the same group of people in the same experts, and you are able to also earn this token and at the same time produce a much more richer content that we're making accessible to the gig economy. So in this context, where we are right now, we are going through the DAO life cycle, which means from the pre-DAO stage up until down cycle and then fully decentralized. So at the pre-DAO stage, we have set the constitution, we have set in terms of parent DAO and the sub DAOs. So we categorize all these experts according to the group of asset experts on strategy, on marketing design, and then on research. So each of them, we still have a some sort of a chapter leader or admin that manages the committee, because each of them works differently on how
mm,
the assets are being managed. So as you see here, right now, it's still in the context of slightly decentralized, centralized. But as we start to automate parts of the sub-DAOs, because they are still having the same constitution and the way they operate based on what we have on our parent DAO. So within this context, people, our members who are part of the sub DAOs, they're able to actually work collectively as a community, collaborate together, and still earn what they will earn based on the contribution that they've done, based on our tokens, and they can vote. Their vote here will ensure how they can vote the quality of the toolkits. So that's why it's important for them to continuously discuss and agree upon the value of that toolkit that they are governing against. So it's about, like, if you think about it in a software development, like people govern together as part of a QA or quality assurance process. Yeah.
mm. Okay. So how does someone then join your DAO? Is it contributions of work that go into it, or is it contribution of fiat to buy some of the tokens? Is that what happens?
So to join our DAO, the first thing is that we're at a very early stage right now. We're looking at people who are actually ex-consultants or independent consultants, say Big Four consultants, or you're also an SME niche consultant. So we still have to filter it
Mm,
manually. Um, and what it means is that we want to ensure that you have a specific asset, a toolkit that you can also help to monetize and contribute
mm.
towards the ecosystem. So if you have, let's say, a specific on media toolkit that you want to actually monetize and make it accessible to the gig economy, hey, come to Reinvent Dao. We'll be able to look into that, because we also have a native token, our Ray token, that will be used to incentivize you. Yeah.
Right, right. Okay. Well, that's interesting because when it comes to IP, I guess how does that relate to its protection of the IP through legal matters? Like, so how, how is that managed through the DAO?
That's very interesting. So, like any, if you think about IP right now, right? Even IP is applied on arts, right? The NFT
Mm.
arts, because it gives you the rights to the artist creator, music artists. It gives them the right back to them. So, where we are giving the IP back to the rights of the consultants is that we protect them. For instance, by joining our DAO, it's about them accepting the consensus that say, hey, this is actually my toolkit that I create. I don't actually plagiarize this or copy this from, let's say, McKinsey. So, for instance, you can say this is actually McKinsey's toolkit, but I'm putting in here. So it's not the kind of behavior that we would accept as part of joining our DAO. So a consensus mechanism is where we are allowing our members to come in and put in the toolkits. And hence, where we protect their IP is that anyone who leaves their IP will also be able to acknowledge that the owner, the original version of the owner, belongs to, say, John. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's shift our conversation more on the innovation side of things because lots of things have changed and it really still feels quite early for blockchain, even so much has happened. And in some ways, you can argue, like, the Web3 landscape, especially in the US, has become really restrictive, where lots of firms want to leave. They're saying, we can't innovate because it's just too restrictive. And as I mentioned, the unregulated era is gone, and where people can just produce any type of token, shill it, rug pull it, whatever, move on to the next. And then I guess one of the biggest things I've seen is the speculation market. I guess has drastically been reduced, and most of the things are now looking at the true innovation. What are people really building? Right now, obviously, venture capital has been extremely low. I was reading somewhere that this quarter, maybe like a little bit over 1 billion was put into the space, but then last year was like 8 billion, so significantly different, right? So you tell me, where do you think we are in the cycle now of innovation?
I think if you think about the innovation, the S curve.
Yes.
So maybe last year or 2 years ago, we were like here, going
Mm,
up here. And then as it went down slightly, it went down. It's still going down. But I feel we have reached a pivotal point that it's slowly coming up. And then when it comes out, it goes a bit plateau, right?
yeah.
And even if it goes plateau, it will increase slowly, not like a sharp incline like this. It will go slowly like this, much more diagonal and much more consistent, I would say. So, and that's where you start to see, because we are at a point where regulators are coming in, right? When regulators coming in, what goes after that? Institutions come in,
Right.
corporates come in, right? And that's where you see the whole thing will start to be a mix of balanced, centralized, and decentralized um, products innovation comes in. And if you see here, all the fight against, like, say NFT, people say, oh, NFT markets are losing. NFT has any value right now, which is, yes, to a certain extent, because there were no real use cases. But what I've seen lately, I've been traveling like in Bali, even in Singapore and Manila for the blockchain week. There's just so many cool use cases, like they are solving, like, the unbanked people in Manila, for instance, like even Indonesia, they were tokenizing businesses. See these kind of use cases, tokenizing businesses and selling across, tokenizing even, like, say, real estates, and even looking at cases that are solving real world problems, and at the same time still allowing the underprivileged people to still be able to have a capability to still have a bank, to still have a bank account, to still be able to earn money even on a daily basis. So that to me is changing the gig economy,
Right.
and this,
Right.
I feel, innovation are slowly happening.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I believe it. I do believe the focus is completely different, especially when you look at trying to raise money or even have your company survive. Right? What do you look at? You build your product, make sure there's a product market fit, figure out how to produce demand and revenue from it. Very simple, right? Obviously, if you can prove that to some degree, you'll have a better chance with a VC raising money, right? If you're earning revenue, of course, once again, you have a better chance of just continuing with your project or your company. Well, do you see any specific verticals? I mean, you said you went to Token 2049, heard lots of projects. Is there anything specific that really caught your eye that felt like the a trend, a wave?
Although I would say a lot of people were talking in at Token 2049, friend tech was a thing.
Mm-mm.
Um, In fact, when I was talking to them about Reinvent Dao, they say, "Hey, how similar is this in French?" And I
Yeah.
said, "That's a very good question that you asked because, to be honest, I feel the idea of you as a social influencer and using your voice to be able to tokenize your advice, tokenize specific ways on how you want to provide advisory or methods, for instance, to your community members." That's actually a very cool idea, and that's why I feel I like that about FriendTech.
Mm,
So it's something about social e-commerce are coming in, so decentralized social media. I've seen that where they are trying to disrupt ways on how people interact between the influencer and community, and also I started seeing a lot of real world asset tokenization comes in,
mm, mm.
much more the tangible asset, because we've seen institutions coming in. So finance institutions, upon them coming in, a lot of them are looking at, say, tokenizing on financial products like bonds, right? Like stocks, even treasury bill. So there's been a lot of use cases lately coming up and about on that. Even securities, STOs are coming in now. Um, so I see right now a lot of these value added coming in with stable coins. A lot of them are actually building asset backed stable coins so that it gives a lot more uh, confidence for institutional investors to come in and put your money invest in. So for me right now, real world asset tokenization is a real value added, because if you think about the value of how you can provide provide a representation of value on that digital asset, even if it's like say in a form of say bond or even stocks. So and you can just build that on a blockchain, and anyone can kind of hold the ownership of that, and that are allowing people to be able to actually earn a certain dividends, a certain incentives that can come out of this. So the power of digital assets is beyond than what we believe can actually bring in to the community, to the world.
Right, right. Well, I think real world assets coming into the fold really makes sense if the government oversight into digital assets is increasing. It is something they could understand. In many respects, it's already happening today, anyways. It's just formalizing the trading through digital means and custody. It just handled a little bit different on the back end. Um, 2 years ago, I was with this a licensed security exchange, and we were doing a digitized bond, and we were doing a IPO of our equity token. So it's like a stock certificate. The one thing I was always amazed about, and I think about it, I actually want to see it happening, is I was told that typically these days how stocks are then traded, you go to your brokerage account or bank and you make the trades, right? But
Yeah.
essentially in Hong Kong, it's just a shift of inventory from like one brokerage to another, and all this paperwork actually still happens behind the scenes and stamping and everything, and actually physical paper. And I was really amazed that I'm like, is that true? This stuff still happens. And this is what technology is supposed to solve. And you would think in this day and age a lot of that is already done with banking, right? It's no different than on the trade floor. I guess trade orders used to come in through a fax machine. It
Yeah,
reminds me of those days, right?
I know.
So I know you're in finance. Well, tell me, what do you see? Do you still connect with people in I guess your strategy consulting days and
Yeah,
banking? Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Of course.
What do they see in this space? I mean, are they excited, or they're kind of like, it's not here. It doesn't. I can't make money or opportunity from it, so it doesn't really matter. What are you hearing?
I think the current market, a lot of them are still a bit playing safe. It's also because, not just because of Web3 or crypto, but also because of just the current economy. So they understand the value where the blockchain technology can bring. But because a lot of people are playing safe, they see a lot of challenges with this, and a lot of bad actors have destroyed the trust reputation of crypto and Web3. So they relate it to scam, scam, scam.
Hmm.
Not all of them though. However, I do believe that people see the potential in this. They know this is the future. Everyone knows this is the future. But like I said, we are at the bottom of the S curve that's coming up. So everyone's playing wait and see to see what are the real world use case, what are the real thing, infrastructure, from user experience, from the moment that I can just log on just by one click easily, and for me to be able to just still earn my money and be incentivized without me having to go through multiple hoops on the experience. So until that has is ready, I can see people will slowly start to be adopting to this. Well, the institutions at the same time, all the banks, all the corporates, they see this. They see this as a potential. So they're exploring actually a lot of like RWA or real world asset tokenization use case, even looking at say, stable coins, digital assets, and how we can bring in more digital assets into the space. So yeah, guys, check it out. Like, I believe for me this is the future. And I do know that innovation, it takes time. Like any innovation cycle, we're still at the innovation phase, which is moving to early majority phase. No, early adopters phase. Yeah.
Right, right. Okay. Well, let's shoot off from your mention about Friendtech for the media in itself, and it's how it's played in Web3 or in general. Let's just talk about the media and how it's changed. I find it fascinating with the ability to use AI for deep fake news, the ability to really shill news out there and make loads of people believe it before it's too late. Like to take an action, to take to change some thinking or behavior. It's just incredible. How do you see the responsibility of the media today, whether it be the news outlets or influencers, and their part in how trust is built in Web3?
Number one, let me talk first. I think I want to talk first about media. So, in my purview, right now we live in a world where we have options, and the options that we see are mostly based on online interaction, internet interaction, because 24/7 we are surrounded by internet, we are surrounded by information that is absorbed and given to us on 24/7 basis. So media here, whether it's social media or even news outlet media, plays a pivotal role, a very pivotal role in how you want to shape a form of a culture shift in a society. You've seen, for instance, like early this year, we've had the SVB Silicon Valley Bank collapse, right? Of course, the failure of the management, senior management of the bank, etc., has caused that as well. But the spread of social media news about SVB as well, that has caused the trust of all the investors of all the startups, and the cascading effect that has just withdrawn all the cash and money that you have within the bank, and that has taken, the bank just suddenly gone into like bankruptcy within like what, 1 day, 2 days.
Hmm.
So that was the cascading effect of how the powerful story and powerful voice of media can help. We've seen media also work in politics and stuff, but in Web3, it's also about how people, most Web3 projects, I've seen that people are using media as a way of communicating their thoughts, like calling in all these KOLs, all these influencers, in order to to promote their project. For me, I feel that has probably worked during the NFT summer, during this DeFi summer. But now there's a lot more to that, because you have to prove your project is not just a rug pull. You're not just writing a white paper and putting all this KOL name, and then you're going to rug pull everything and just leave high and dry for your investors and communities' money. There's a lot more purpose to that. You have to show and prove that you are actually bringing in a purpose to your product, to your community. So media plays a role to help and shape and bring this together. For me, I believe in open collaboration. If there's a way, and there is a way actually, between media and the Web3 companies and the community to work collaboratively together, right? That enables us to actually shift this towards a much more better culture and probably eliminate as well a lot of the bad actors that have been in this industry.
Right, right. Well, I think a lot of bad actors were forced out, but I think there's always bad actors looking for the next opportunity. We can compare this to the .com days. Lots of, and that has nothing to do with blockchain or anything, but there is like increased massive valuations on companies because of all the promotions. These companies would go IPO, then afterwards they just kind of go down. It's not like this is anything new.
That's
Quite interesting to see. But for sure, the media and social media for sure has always played a huge part in the buildup of these type of projects.
I just wanted to add some one point as well that you mentioned about fake news. So we've seen that a lot now. There's bots as well as AI that's actually influencing a certain propaganda or influencing a certain hype of a specific, let's say, case or companies or subject matter area. And this is what most people, most futurists or technologists are also, and even policymakers are concerned about. It's not just about Web3 blockchain, it's about also how AI
Mm.
can actually influence. And hence, I just came back actually from a conference in Kuching in Borneo where they were discussing about the governance of AI policy on a global level. There's a lot of like bodies started to organize, even bringing in experts, builders, and governments together in order to see what are the best way to mitigate this, right? Because, like you said, you can influence a specific topic, but it's not you. You could be like an avatar version of Lee being generated by some fake AI coming in and say, "Hey, come and buy this token at X price. I'm going to return you X value." So that's wrong, right? So at the end of the day, it's about ethical, moral, that and also working collaboratively together. It goes back to trust. That's how you can create a trust community. And here I believe there's an element of where a DAO as a decentralized structure and built on a blockchain can come in together to govern people, to govern certain policies in terms of a specific mission, because a DAO is a community driven mission, right? You have a same mission. Let's say even if a DAO is about a media driven DAO, how do we cultivate an ethical media that will be able to encourage a lot of this forward thinking innovation happen?
Yeah, I think the line of ethics when it comes to media and influencers is going to be revisited in the sense that it's one thing to have a, let's say for me, someone comes to my um, email and says, "Hey, I want you to promote this for me. I'll give you this much money, sign a contract." And I can go through the usual things where I say, okay, this is paid sponsor and I'm talking about a product. Um, and I think at some point it's like there's got to some level where influencers would look at that company and do some due diligence about them other than just taking the money. Now I know it's easier said than done, but yeah, I always thought about what's happening now, where with like the sports guys that kind of backed FTX. What's going to happen with them? I mean, they could afford to hire legal, but that's not the point. The point is the onus to the media companies um, to validate their claims. Like the traditional media, you can always trust that they always do their background check and they won't release it until they've fact checked, right? So
That's right.
I almost feel like in some ways influencers should be brought up to that level as well to some degree, or fine if they've heard some news but they're not sure, they haven't had time to validate it. They should state that, right?
Mm.
But a lot of rumors. This is what happened, right? Rumor mills kind of happen on the internet.
But
Um,
so don't you think based on that, this is why a governance is very critical to
yes,
decide this. And a DAO is structured in a way so that it gives a trust have a trusted governance
Hmm.
amongst its community members, as long as you have the same mission, purpose, and the way how you structure it, etc., is based on that. So, in that case, we could probably start something like a mission purpose, media influencers DAO or something. In this case, like
Yeah.
people, we need to. It's about creating governance. So I go back to where I feel the value of how DAO can bring in, but also of course DAO has also its own quirks as well, right?
Right.
So it's about how you improve a certain evolution, how you improve a certain innovation when change is necessary. So when change necessary, this is how innovation happens. And with this, all the pitfalls and learnings, what didn't work in the past from all past projects, people will really learn. For instance, the whole security, the whole trust, and how can we building that community into a much more trusted world. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you, Hanis, for sharing your profound insights with us today. I think we could wrap it up here, but before we go, I want to ask you, well, maybe a couple more questions. And this just personally, I'm curious. Like, what Web3 influencers are you inspire you, or do you like to follow? Name one or two.
Oh, that's very interesting. I wouldn't say SBF, although it's a hot topic of the month. Um, well, I particularly like actually one person, Dr. Jane Thompson. I don't know if you heard of her. She's very inspiring in her ways. Writes a lot about metaverse and the evolution of future of work. The other one I like is Yat Siu.
Hmm.
I feel he's a visionary man, visionary leader, and he started, I think, Outblaze when no one believed in him. Like, what is this gaming? Is this like scam as well? And he stick on to what he believed in. Maybe for how many years? Him and his co-founder Yusuf. So I believe they, in a way, have influence to where I am as well. Because I believe if you believe in something that you if you keep on believing in what you know and what you want to build, it's possible. So yeah, live life to that motto.
Yeah, I mean, they always say it's not how fast you get there, it's the journey. And sometimes you can't expect it to happen overnight,
No,
which I guess, that's like they say it's the new generation, right? Immediate gratification. This is what crypto's been about, right? I can 50x my investment and become a millionaire in 6 weeks or something.
no.
Yeah, right?
Older, some people were quite lucky during that dot com, not dot com, like ICO bubble and all those things. But gone were the days now. So it's really about the journey. At the end of the day, whether you're young or whether you've reached a certain age, retirement age, it's always about the journey, and that has brought you. Always believe that where you are, the moment where you are now, life has brought you to where you are because of that. So for me, any I've seen a lot of entrepreneurship journey. I'm an entrepreneur and founder myself, and I'm still in my journey battling, every day in order to just keep on solving problem, keep on finding a solution. For That's why I love to hear most, successful stories as well as challenges. How every entrepreneur, every founder in Web3, especially, I feel, are overcoming their challenges day by day.
Right, right. Well, can you name maybe a couple of resources for entrepreneurs out there, whether they be a book, a website, or even a community that can help them grow as an entrepreneur in the Web3 space?
Very interesting. I think first and foremost, there's a community called Help Bank. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Mhm.
It's by Simon. The founder is called Simon. I just forgot his last name. Simon Squib. Yeah. So he's based in the UK, and he's helping a lot of entrepreneurs or business owners or founders in order to come and talk about, for instance, what are the problems and how they can mitigate them. Not specifically in Web3. However, I feel as a founder, it's useful for that. As for specific Web3, I usually, for me myself, I follow a lot of like people on Twitter or X now. Someone like Yatsu, someone even like some DAOs influencer, DAO strategies, to understand what they are working on and what are the latest technologies that are being built, because every day you just hear new infrastructure, new toolings coming up, new dapps. So how do you can actually accommodate to that? So follow, just keep on being aware on Twitter, and also listening to podcasts like, say, RTV.
Thank you very much. Yes, yes. Podcasts are actually very fruitful. There's so much information out there.
So
All right. Well, that concludes our podcast, and thank you so much for joining. And yeah, we should catch up again and see when you get to your next stage, stage two of your Reinvent Dao.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I would love to, and I would love to tell everyone as well about the journey. Uh,
I didn't realize that you understood the pain point so well. I think you've been through it. I mean, that's exactly how I explain it to people. Like this
Yeah.
manual process. Like you want to create a piece of content, you submit to the compliance officer. They take 3 weeks to get back to you, and da 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 da.
Yes.
It's like,
I
come
know
on, it's just
exactly. I've been through it.
2023.
I know. I mean, anyway, so I guess I mean I think you made I really loved the point of how there's so many companies just using open AI tools and they're pulling from the same data sets. And yes, I get it; it's still very new and they're testing it out. But I think that's why there's critics are saying critics of AI saying there's all these biases that are being created
Mm,
based on what they're finding on the internet, a lot of it which are not even validated, like you said, the source. And so they're building all this content or pushing out all this information. And I've heard this from lawyers too. It's almost like some of these AI engines that they had used to look at historical cases in the past. They came back with like inaccurate information. So
yeah.
yes, it's still early days, right? Early days.
So there's a story of two lawyers from California who actually got disbarred for
Oh, is that
using
right?
ChatGPT in a brief, and they
Oh
cited
shit!
they cited inaccurate case history, and they got disbarred.
Oh my gosh.
So you want to check out Harvey.ai. That's
Okay.
a new AI system, a new AI company that is going to probably transform legal practices and the way we
Harvey.
interpret law.
Okay.
Harvey,
Yeah.
I think Harvey.ai.
Okay.
Yeah, Harvey AI. I'm not sure what the domain is, but
All right.
I think they're working on something pretty interesting.
Cool. Cool. All right. So let's move on to like sort of like from the customer's point of view, right? So like as I mentioned before, a lot of referral marketing and hey, maybe catch me on Facebook. I know a buddy of yours. He thought you'd be someone that I could help. Things like this. But how do like a lot of America, surprisingly, still has, I guess, a challenge access to technology in general, or maybe they don't access it that much. So, I mean, how do you imagine serving those type of customers? I mean, that are a little bit harder to reach. Um, you know.
So yeah, I think that's a good question. And so as a marketing technology company, our vision is really clear. Like we have a very clear quantifiable vision and mission, right? We want to help the next 5,000 registered investment advisors, independent registered investment advisors, acquire 40 new clients every year over the next 5 to 6 years. And if we do that, we'll maybe impact 1 million households. The way we think we're going to do it is by empowering advisors with scalable marketing technology. And that is not just ads. It's not just ad generation, right? I think ads is one piece to it so that advisors can achieve scale. But because of these AI models, now advisors can create content like never before. And I think their job profiles changed a little bit towards becoming amazing thought leaders in their space, in their vertical, and their unique service offering, so that people can read their content and look to them for advice and for input and whatever, right? I think if you look at America today, I think the percentage of people that are not on the internet is maybe 3 or 4% of Americans. I think it's 3.5 if I'm not mistaken, right? The majority of Americans who have investable assets are on the internet, right? They're on Facebook specifically, I think that's a very overlooked medium because a lot of the people with the money are really on Facebook because the boomers sit on Facebook, right? Um, and Facebook and LinkedIn specifically. But I think that if advisors can have a sort of mindset shift and see how they can leverage all these AI models to create way more content at quarter of the price, way faster, then I think they can get more eyeballs looking at their content and draw, attention. And I think that some of these things are going to remain like foundational and constant. Like you cannot stop doing the consistent hard work of creating content and building authority, establishing authority for yourself in this space, right? I think those things are going to remain the same unless you're part of a Wells Fargo or a Goldman Sachs or a JP Morgan, where everything is cookie cutter, it's all in place. They have the clients, you show up, you serve them, bam, over, right? But if you're an independent RIA, which is the fastest growing market in the RIA space, compounding, I think, at 2,000 or 3,000 new firms every year, because more registered investment advisors, they want to go independent. They're like, screw you, Goldman Sachs, screw you, JP Morgan. We don't want to work with your, monolithic structures and your archaic ways of doing business. We're going to go independent and be entrepreneurs. Those are the people we want to work with, and they are the key. They are the future, because they're going to be able to do advisory in a creative way that the previous generation was not able to do, and especially
Right,
to be
right.
able to reach Gen Z and millennials. Like Gen Z, there are so many Gen Z kids today who are like working in software companies and whatnot, like in their early 20s, who want financial advice and they don't know where to find it. They don't know how to find it because where do they go to first? Their app. They want to look for apps. They want to look for mobile first methods of communication. And I think that's where
Mm.
we are also going to be able to help advisors reach Gen Z in a unique way. So
Sounds that sounds like a delivery that I think you guys can actually handle. I think for most people, I think you're right. Just if you just ask people in general, what type of work have you put in to secure your financial future, right? Or what type of planning? And usually what I hear is like, oh, I really want to do something. I just don't know where to start, right? Because the
yeah,
idea is like, oh, I got to do it myself. I think that's usually the problem. And then they don't know. I said, well, yeah, you can be part of that the process, but you need to find someone actually who has the knowledge to help you, right? So I
right.
think for sure. And I guess coming down to the quality of the content, I guess that is then delivered through your platform, how much customization is there? Because right now, when I've been interviewing many CEOs using AI within their organization, and I think it's changed a little bit, but they're saying, you know what, we don't need that many marketing people. We just need to hire some high school person who's very hungry, basically, saving costs, and then just give them and direct them, give them all these tools and direct them on what needs to happen. So then, yeah, they use AI, they're producing all this content. Of course, maybe a higher up, more experienced person needs to kind of massage it a little bit. But then when everyone's going, let's say everyone's on pulling from chat GPT, it seems like it's from the same data set, same ideas, same concepts, right? And sometimes, yes, that's the reality, but I think who delivers it actually makes a huge difference. So is there a lot of personalization, customization from your platform? How's that work?
Yes, yes. That's this is another great question. I think I'm going to say something pretty controversial, and it's going to sound a little controversial at start, but
Great.
I think the best AI models are going to be biased
Mm.
to your unique use case. Okay? The best AI models are going to be super biased. And what I mean by that is, like, for financial services, you need a model for that. Okay, for medical services, healthcare, you need a separate model for that. And it's not just the AI engineers and researchers and machine learning people and NLP people who need to be working on those models. You also want to have the research community deeply involved to verify the output, right? And I think the more you have these domain specific thought leaders in each domain I think you can increase output of the economy at large, right? Because I think what you said is right. Like everyone's hitting off these APIs, and the output looks the same. But the key, I think, what's going to be the unique differentiator, like for example, for us, what's going to be our unique differentiator is that we have set the chart, we have set the course to build our own model. Okay, we feel like there's no choice. We feel like there's no choice, especially with the release of Llama 2, Meta's new open source model. Uh, I mean, we feel like we have no choice but to build a domain specific large language model that we can. It's a long term play, and I think that I think we'll benefit long term. It's like laying the digital railroads for the 21st century,
Mm.
right? That's kind of what I feel like every specific industry vertical needs to do, and I think there are companies who are probably doing it for their own vertical. But yes, the marketing costs have dramatically dropped. You don't need a 10-member team. You maybe need a 3-member team or a 5-member team. Um, and I think if you know how to prompt it with your unique data sets, I'm like, you should not like this is not an anti-GPT rant. Okay, I think GPT-4 is amazing. Like it's awesome. It's really awesome and produces amazing output when you are the unique differentiator. If you ask GPT-4, create me content for the real estate market in America today, and it's going to create you a bunch of whatever, right? But then if you have a unique data set of knowledge that you have gathered over the years, that you are learning every day, and then you collect that data and then you feed it into GPT and you're like, hey, create me content around all these parameters, and you feed it all the parameters, right? That's where you see the magic of GPT really come to play.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people actually are missing, and I guess that's why there's all this talk, or there's actually a lot of services now helping people with prompts, right? Just being like a better a prompt engineer. there's a call
Prompt
it.
engineering. That's right.
But that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. But I think that's very well put, because for sure, the tool is a tool. It's always the person that's using it and what they get out of it. And that's the one thing I've always learned, even with any marketing tool. I remember one time I was in conversations to decide to subscribe to HubSpot, right? They go through, hey, look, there's all this cool stuff, automation, turn it on and off and everything. And yes, it always sounds great. It can do all this stuff. And it's not until you actually really get into it that you actually recognize its in potential inconsistencies, any like limitations based on how you're trying to use it. Sometimes you're kind of questioning if the automation is working based on the parameters that you set. Sometimes you just there's a lot of stuff that you learn you just don't know. But the more time you spend on the tool and you become an expert, then you know exactly what you need to do to get what you need to get out of it, right? So that's a very good
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. I so uh, I think HubSpot is going to be one of the more defining marketing companies in the next 5 years, 10 years. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I think that so you mentioned since you mentioned HubSpot, I have to say that I think HubSpot, their entire technology stack is going to be completely built into conversational AI. So they have a product called chatspot.ai now. So I follow the founder, Dharmesh Shah, on LinkedIn. He bought the domain for chat.com. I think he spent like 100 million or something. I'm maybe
Ooh.
not a wait. I could be exaggerating. It's probably not 100 million. It's maybe 10 million. I don't know. But I know it was a 7-figure or 6-figure, 6 or 7-figure amount. But what they are trying to do, I think the future of these dashboards, because of conversational AI models and because of natural language processing, essentially, right? Because of these NLP models, like all these complex automation softwares like HubSpot and Salesforce and all these different tools, right? They're all going to become a chat interface. It's going to be the future of user interface design. It's just going to be these chatbots everywhere. Like write me an email campaign for my free trial users, right? Bam, it's going to create you all these email campaigns. And I think that's the direction that HubSpot is going in. And it's going to change the game. It's
Uh,
it's kind of
yeah.
scary. Yeah.
Yeah, it is scary.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine now, like in HubSpot, instead of me having to learn how to use the tools, you're telling the tool what you want, right?
Yes.
And
That's
then
what we're
that's the
building.
yeah, that's what you're building. Oh, that
We're building.
I
We're
want
going
to
to
see
have it
that.
live in 3 to 4 months. In 3 to 4
Yeah,
months, I
yeah,
told my team this. I'm like, guys, you look at all these tabs. So I show them my dashboard, right? We got in a
yeah,
stand-up call and I showed them the dashboard. I showed them all these tabs. Okay. You guys see all these tabs on the left? It's
yeah.
going away. Why? Because our users, they already have steep learning adoption. Like technology adoption is already super steep. Okay. Why take them through tutorials and help articles and all that stuff when you can just, you know, conversational AI the thing, right? Chat UX, chat user experience, right? Why can't we just make this entire dashboard experience a conversational chat? And I think that's the
Right.
direction we're heading towards. And probably when you log into the Wealth.io app in a year from now, it's probably just going to be Anna, our AI, who's our co-pilot. We say, that's how we pitch our company, right? We're building the first AI marketing co-pilot for registered investment advisors. And it's just going to be Anna,
Mm.
and you text Anna, and Anna's going to give you whatever you want for your Wealth.io system. Yep.
Yeah, that's yeah, I can't wait to see that. Well, how far do you think I guess AI would be in I guess in the advisor's role when they're providing strategy or like, basically uh investment sort of like like kind of like advice, right? So maybe more
Mm,
direct advice. It's beyond marketing. Because I mean, I guess every single advisor is gonna potentially look at things differently and may have their own recommendations.
yes.
Do you think AI has a chance of kind of taking over these RA roles to some
Actually,
degree?
I think that it's going to answer a lot of the basic questions that people have.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's going to make
yeah,
it's going to reduce time for the advisor. Like instead of explaining basic concepts like the rule of 72, for example, it's
mm,
the rule of compound interest, why you should be investing in ETFs, for example, because they compound
mm.
over time. And so having to explain that to like people over like several years can be quite, I don't know how some of these advisors do it. I mean, they explain the same concept year in, year out, right? But I think that in the future, we're probably going to see AI models. And this is,
Yeah,
I think, this is an interesting product feature ad that I think I just came to me right now on the pod. But uh, I think that you can integrate your unique brand voice, your unique protocols into the model. Like in your onboarding, you can have the advisor essentially input things that they don't want the AI to tell their users, tell their
yeah,
prospects, right? Like don't mention this. These are my unique service offerings. These are my unique
yeah,
core competencies, right? These are the things I'm really good at. Oh well, let me just give you a document. Here's a 30-page document about all the things that I believe are good sound investment advice. Integrate that into your output, right? So I think that that can be truly transformative because it can reduce the time spent for the advisor to answer
right.
basic questions. So I think it is going to be. I think there is a solid use case for it, but
Mm,
it's not
mm,
100% like use case.
sure.
There are some wannabe people out there. They like using the wannabe people love using the word disruption. They don't
I
really
love
understand what it
that.
really means.
Right.
But I can tell you a quick story of this silly investor that I met. Is so you have these wannabe angel investors today that want to invest in AI, and this
Mm,
one specific investor, he was like, well, why not just completely disrupt the advisor model, right? Why not just completely disrupt the advisor model? And this guy worked in he had real estate investments, right? So I asked him, I'm like, okay, well, would you completely disrupt real estate agents? Would you put them all up, all out of jobs? Like you can have AI replace real estate, right? Would you like to? So I asked him. I'm like, so Mr. Angel Investor, would you like to take a tour, a house tour with a robot? Would you like a robot to close a deal for you on $1 million home? And he very arrogantly said, yeah. And I'm like, come on, there's no way you're gonna do that, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
same thing applies
mm,
here. Like,
yeah,
you can't remove the human loop, the human loop is going to be part of it. Like human advisors are key, um, but I think they're going to be able to just serve a lot more people.
Mm, yeah. Well, when I related to when I was mortgage finance, mortgage advisor, I can imagine just having a chat where you're basically asking questions as far as like, okay, here's my information. Give me the best product that is out there. This is the payment that I can afford. If I refinance now, am I uh, out money for a bit that I basically need to recoup? Because I'm paying points. All the stuff. I think it can really be answered by
Yeah.
some engine, right? I mean, you don't need all that. And actually, when I was an advisor, I don't want to go through all that stuff and
Yep.
calculate everything. Actually, I'd rather go through more higher valued information, right? It's more of like, okay, I'll help you with your financing, but let's strategize. Do you need to take some cash out? Do you want to buy another property? And I'd rather do stuff like that than trying to figure out all the maths behind it, right? So,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, the math
okay.
behind it.
Yeah.
I think the computational, yeah, the math behind it can be done through
Yeah.
AI, not with GPT. Definitely
Mm.
not with GPT-4, because GPT-4 sucks at math, and I believe it's getting worse and worse at math. Yeah, because they're trying to save on no, this is serious. Like I think they're
Yeah.
trying to save on compute or something, and it's actually
Right.
getting worse at math. But I think
Right.
using like a Wolfram API, which is lets you do a lot of computational calculations, a lot of algorithmic calculations, can be used in this kind of a use case where advisors can hit those APIs and have robo advisors do a lot of automated rebalancing, tax loss harvesting, and all that, which is already there. Honestly, like a lot of
Okay.
these robos already do that, but
All
it's
right.
merging both worlds together really well. That's the hard job.
Sure, sure. Okay, well, we're about at the end of the podcast, and I
Cool.
want to thank you for having your time and presence and your knowledge shared with our audience. Any last words you want to add? I mean, uh, any new developments, any new announcements?
Yes. So I had a team member recently, like he said, we were talking about we were talking about data analytics, and we were talking about really looking being a data driven company, right? And we're a super small early stage team, very scrappy operation. And he said, "Oh, maybe we need a data analyst," and it really drove me nuts. I'm like, that's the most stupid thing I've heard all week long. And I sent him a video to the GPT-4's new code interpreter release, which is insane. You feed it, you download a CSV file of your company's data. It's imagine like Stripe data, right? You download all the Stripe data, you feed it to GPT-4, to the code interpreter, and it will literally create pie charts for you, giving you information and insights about your company. So I think
Wow.
what I would like to tell, yeah, it's insane. Like data analysts are going away in 12 months. They're not gonna
Yeah.
like data analytics is gone. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, so what I told him was you need to be on the trend. You need to be. There are new updates every day. So what I would tell your audience is to try to stay updated as much as you can, because this is moving insanely fast, unlike any kind of industrial revolution we've seen before. So there has to be a sense of urgency and desperation to learn as much as you can, so you know what you need to do to implement AI in your business. That's what I would say.
Cool. All right. Hey, thanks for sharing that. And Jonathan, pleasure to have you on. And maybe we'll check back in with you in next six
Six
to eight
months.
months. Yeah, 6 months. Good timing. Good timing. All right. Thanks a lot.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Arthur. This was awesome. Great questions, and I look forward to keeping in touch.
Hey, so that concludes this episode of the Startup Voyage podcast. I would like to thank all of you for listening to this episode, and I'd really appreciate it if you leave any type of comments that you'd like to share, because it helps to feedback on how I deliver these podcasts, and I definitely want to improve it to continue to add more value to the audience. Now, you can follow us on many of the popular podcast channels: Spotify, Amazon, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Equally, I'm going to be uploading all of these episodes onto YouTube. So it's more than just audio, it's video. You can see everyone's faces. Look, I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. And I'm always open to new ideas or looking for new guests. So if you know anyone in the space of Web3 that is an influencer or a leader or someone who's really trying to shape what Web3 will be in the future, I'd love to hear from them. All right. So yeah, just comment below. You can DM me. I have all my information in the details underneath this podcast episode. So yeah, thank you for joining me today, and have a great one. See you in the next episode.